At a luxury sushi restaurant with family, mother-in-law smirks, "You're eating too? This place is fully booked for 3 months." I reply, "I don't need a reservation." I was quickly shown to my seat. "I never made the reservation to include you in the first place. Did you actually think you'd be eating with us? How presumptuous of you." Catherine's lips curled into smug smirk, her eyes full of superiority as she looked down at me. I had foolishly allowed myself to get excited about a family dinner at an upscale sushi restaurant. Even though I had experienced this kind of humiliation many times before, today of all days, I chose to ignore reality. I looked up at my husband in disbelief, but my husband avoided my gaze and walked behind his mother as if nothing had happened. Reality hit me mercilessly, as I could no longer ignore the growing coldness in our marriage. The sliding door rattled open, and I could hear the energetic voices of the sushi chefs coming from inside. Those lively voices felt like needles piercing through me. "Do you really think someone like you should be eating in such a fancy restaurant in the first place? Just go home already. It's obvious that you're completely out of place here." I caught a glimpse of my husband's back as he followed his mother inside at the restaurant. When did my husband, who once stood up for me even in front of his mother, change so much? I pretended not to notice as his attitude toward me grew colder little by little. On our wedding day, my husband promised to protect me forever. That promise was now vanishing right before my eyes. Catherine turned her back on me and quickly disappeared inside the restaurant. It was as if my presence had never mattered in the first place. Until now, I believed that enduring everything was the best way to bring our family closer. But in this moment, all that effort turned into profound undoingness. There was no going back. All I could do was stand still as our relationship quietly, but surely, fell apart. As I held back my tears and prepared to leave, a thought struck me. My name is Vicky Stevens, a 35-year-old marketing manager. I used to be an outspoken and cheerful person. At work, I was the go-to person for advice and the backbone of my team. Now, I live under the control of my husband's family, emotionally and physically drained. Before we got married, Sean and I promised we would live as just the two of us. But just a few months after the wedding, one sentence from his parents changed everything. "We just renovated this house. It makes sense for you to move in with us." Our opinions weren't even considered. I wanted to push back, but before I had the chance to say anything, Sean said, "I don't want to hurt my parents, Vicky. Let's just live with them." When I saw the look on Sean's face, I couldn't say anything. His eyes held the fear of a child, and it left me speechless. It wasn't until later that I learned about James' past and the way I played part in his demanding personality. He was a retired sales manager who had constantly clashed with his subordinates. Unable to command respect at work, he found his self-worth by controlling his family, and that need for control was reflected in the home renovations. Their quarters were lavishly redone, while our room remained untouched. That glaring disparity revealed James's dominating nature. Whenever Sean tried to help with chores, James would bark, "Men shouldn't do housework." Hearing this, Sean would shrink back like a scolded child. Watching him retreat made me feel guilty, as if the blame was somehow mine, so I took on all the household responsibilities. Sean and I also shouldered all the household expenses. James and Catherine funneled their retirement funds into savings, leaving us to cover utilities, groceries, and everything else. The truth was that Sean wasn't making much money, definitely not enough to support both of his parents. Adding to his stress, James constantly pressured him, which led to repeated failures on his certification exams. Becoming certified would increase Sean's income, but it was clear that his father was hindering his chances. Because of this, it was up to me to keep working so we could make ends meet. In time, the only place I could find solace was at work. When chatting with my coworkers or mentoring my team, I felt like myself again. But every time I returned home, Catherine's biting remarks and James' booming voice awaited me. Through it all, my parents' words became my lifeline. Never give up no matter what. I clung to this advice, using it to endure day by day. I wanted to believe that Sean also dreamed of the day we could escape his parents' grasp. I wanted to help him. I wanted us to find a way to break free from James and Catherine's control, and I knew Sean needed a reason to change. One evening, as we sat alone in the living room, I summoned all my courage and brought up counseling. "Sean, I don't think we can keep going on like this. Have you thought about trying counseling?" My voice wavered more than usual. It was a habit of mine when I was bracing for a reaction. Sean looked at me startled before quickly averting his gaze. "Counseling? What if my parents find out?" He mumbled the words and then fell silent. In that moment, his face was a mask of fear. Though Sean rarely showed vulnerability, the mere mention of this topic turned him into a frightened child. Seeing him like that, I swallowed my words. "Okay. I won't push you." That was all I could manage to say. I realized my hands were clenched tightly on my lap and slowly loosened my grip. Still, a deep ache spread through my chest. I had noticed James' controlling nature from the beginning of our marriage, But once we moved in with him, his dominance was far worse than I had imagined. It's only natural for family to support each other. James would often say things like this, meddling in every aspect of our lives. He dictated the menu for our meals, the order of chores, and even weighed in on when and where we could go out. His words never carried the tone of the request. Instead, he barked orders as if what he said was the ultimate truth. Beneath his strict demeanor, I could sense traces of his unresolved trauma from being bullied during his corporate career. Whenever James drunkenly recounted how his subordinates had mocked him, Sean and I could only offer polite smiles and nods. That's why the family must respect me. Unable to command respect at work, James sought validation by controlling his family. His need to dominate was especially pronounced when it came to us, his son and daughter-in-law. You two should be the ones paying for the renovations. When James declared this, I felt a chill run down my spine. The way he said it left no room for refusal. This renovation is for your benefit. Although he claimed it was for us, it was clear he was using it to tighten his control over our finances. Sean, as usual, could only mutter a defeated yes to his father's demands. Childhood memories of James giving him the silent treatment for days on end kept Sean firmly in check. Every time I saw him shrink under his father's thumb, it made my heart ache. Catherine, on the other hand, tormented us in her own unique way. When she was young, Catherine dreamed of becoming a fashion designer. But James had crushed that dream, insisting she stay home as a full-time wife and mother. Since then, her life had been a series of unfulfilled days under James' control. Now all her pent-up frustration was directed at me. Vicky, your cleaning is just so careless. Can't you be more thorough? Going to work every day? It's obvious you don't care about your family. Each comment cut deep, but I swallowed my feelings without saying a word. Catherine's words weren't just snide remarks. They were tests meant to push me to my limit. She didn't stop at criticizing my chores. She also belittled the success I achieved at work. If your career is so important, why are you even living here? Her words always carried a sting, but I could also sense a tinge of jealousy underneath. One morning, after finishing the chores, I sat in the living room sipping my coffee. Oh, how nice. You have time to sit and drink coffee. Back when I was your age, I didn't have that kind of luxury. I'm sure things were much tougher in your time, Catherine. I said it to ease the tension, but her face hardened instead. You're too privileged to understand. It was in that moment that I realized what Catherine truly felt. She had made me the target of her frustrations over her unfulfilled dreams. Sean, too, was becoming increasingly distant towards me. He started coming home later than usual, and our conversations grew shorter. You're home late today. The meeting ran over. I'm just exhausted. His words lacked sincerity, and it tightened the knot in my chest. One day, I accidentally found out that he was drinking alone at a bar near his office. In that moment, a wave of doubt and sadness washed over me. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to ask him outright, but I was terrified of breaking our fragile relationship. I had endured so much, but that day, I finally reached my breaking point. Catherine's taunts, James' commands, and Sean's indifference had piled up until I felt on the verge of breaking. One night, when I returned home, I walked into a family meeting in the living room. If money's tight, maybe you should be working harder. Exactly. You're out all the time anyway. Why not contribute more to the household? At that moment, I felt something inside me snap. I won't need to take away any more of my life. For the first time, I gave voice to the thoughts I had been suppressing, and the room fell silent. That night, my mind wandered to my childhood friend, Melissa. Melissa was the head chef at a prestigious restaurant, a rare feat for a woman in such a competitive field. She was a strong and proud woman who had overcome countless challenges. Remembering how she had always been a source of advice and strength, I decided to reach out to her. Melissa, do you have a moment to talk? Of course, Vicky. What's going on? Her voice over the phone was as warm and steady as I remembered. I have something I can't talk about at home. Can we meet in person? Oh, absolutely. Why don't you come to the restaurant? It's quieter in the evening. We can talk in private then. Her words felt like a lifeline, and that evening, I headed to her restaurant. As I stepped into the elegant restaurant, I was enveloped by its warm lighting and tranquil atmosphere. Spotting Melissa at a corner table, I felt a slight weight lift from my chest. Vicky, I'm so glad you came. Her short hair and confident expression gave me the same sense of reassurance they always had. You don't look too great. Is everything okay? Honestly, no, it's not. Can I talk to you about it? I poured out everything to Melissa. The suffocating life with my in-laws, James' dominance, Catherine's sharp words, and Sean's growing indifference. You've been enduring all that? Vicky, that sounds unbearable. Melissa, listen quietly, never interrupting. I'm at my breaking point, but I don't know what to do. Then the first thing you need to do is reclaim yourself. You're stronger than this. Remember the outspoken and confident person you used to be. Her words gave me the courage to cry for the first time in a long while. After hearing everything, Melissa made a suggestion to help me stand up for myself. Vicky, if your in-laws want to meet you for a fancy dinner, we can use that to your advantage. What do you mean? Use my restaurant. Let's teach your mother-in-law a real lesson and dinner etiquette. Her plan was simple, but carried undeniable strength. Melissa and I planned everything meticulously, anticipating the day Catherine would pick. At home, the tension was palpable, and Sean and I barely spoke. Even though I knew Catherine's scheme was meant to hurt me, this time, my resolve outweighed my fear. A few days later, Catherine suddenly announced, "This weekend, let's have a family dinner at a high-end restaurant." Her words caught me off guard, but I quickly masked my surprise. "Oh, what kind of restaurant is it?" "It's a very popular place. I've heard reservations are booked 3 months in advance." At that moment, a small certainty settled in my chest. She must know this was Melissa's restaurant and intended to use it to humiliate me. Suppressing the tension building inside me, I smiled. "Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you, Catherine." Catherine nodded in satisfaction, while Sean avoided meeting my eyes entirely. As the weekend approached, Melissa and I finalized every detail of our plan. "Vicky, just hold your ground that day. I'll handle the rest." Her unwavering confidence helped me slowly regain my own. At home, it was obvious Catherine was plotting something. She frequently whispered to Sean and James, smirking knowingly, even though I kept up a facade of calm, pretending not to notice. Finally, the day arrived. The car ride to the restaurant with Catherine, James, and Sean was cloaked in an uneasy tension. Catherine was in high spirits, occasionally casting sly glances in my direction. "This restaurant is supposed to be amazing." My friends couldn't stop raving about it. I said nothing, gazing silently out the window. When we arrived, the restaurant's stunning exterior came into view. The sleek signage and understated design spoke to its exclusivity. "So this is the famous restaurant. I'm so excited." There was an air of smugness in her tone. As we stood at the entrance, she delivered a bombshell. "Oh, by the way, I only made reservations for the 3 of us. I hope you weren't planning to eat with us." Her words nearly stole my breath, but I kept my expression neutral. "Oh, that's fine. There's actually a special room reserved for me." Catherine's smug smile froze in an instant. "A special room?" "Yes, the head chef here is an old friend of mine." In my words, the color drained from Catherine's face. James stared at me in shock, while Sean looked visibly shaken. The staff greeted me warmly and then escorted me to the private room, leaving my in-laws behind. The spacious private room was adorned with soft lighting and refined decor. Moments later, Melissa appeared. "Did everything go smoothly?" "Yes. It's off to a perfect start." From the private room, I could see Catherine and James looking restless, speaking in hushed but animated tones. "Do you think she really knows the head chef here? There's no way. She must be bluffing." Their glasses kept darting toward me, their expressions portraying a mix of doubt and unease. "They're completely rattled. It's funny to see them scrambling like this after being so arrogant this whole time." Melissa smiled as she skillfully prepared sushi with precision and grace. A staff member approached Catherine's table after some commotion. "Is there something I can assist you with?" "Well, I was just curious about the private room. What's her connection here?" "The lady in the private room is a guest of our head chef, and she is a very special patron." At those words, Catherine's face turned even paler. "Enough. Focus on your meal and stop embarrassing us." But their unease was palpable, and the tension hung heavily over their table. Meanwhile, in the private room, a lavish array of sushi prepared by Melissa was brought to the table. "I made this especially for you. Enjoy." As I savored the fresh, exquisite sushi, I felt a growing sense of calm and control. "Thank you for creating such a wonderful experience for me. You deserve every bit of this, Vicky." Melissa's words warmed my heart, and I smiled genuinely. After finishing my meal, I left the private room and walked toward Catherine's table. Catherine's face shifted into a mixture of surprise and confusion when she saw me approaching. "Oh, weren't you enjoying yourself in the private room?" "Of course, thanks to Melissa, I had a truly wonderful time." At that moment, Catherine's eyes widened in shock. "So you really do know her?" "That's right. So I suggest you mind your behavior. It reflects on my friend's reputation." Catherine's expression tightened, and James crossed his arms, remaining silent. At that moment, Melissa approached the table. "Vicky, is everything all right? Is there an issue here?" Melissa's firm tone heightened the tension even further. "No, Melissa. I was just saying hello." Catherine, overwhelmed by Melissa's commanding presence, was at a loss for words. Desperate to salvage her dignity, Catherine made a feeble attempt to save face. "Oh, we're also enjoying our meal here. Thank you for having us. I'm glad to hear that. However, Vicky has had a long-standing special connection with us, which is why she was welcomed into the private room." Catherine's face grew paler, and James cleared his throat in a clumsy attempt to smooth things over. Despite Catherine's attempts to save face, the tension in the air only grew thicker. By the way, I must say, Vicky's family has always been a great support to us. Vicky herself holds a special place in my heart. Melissa's words prompted Catherine to respond instinctively. Well, isn't it wonderful to receive such special treatment? Maybe you could share some of that privilege with us. Of course, we treat all our guests equally. Though I must admit, the impression a guest leaves does depend heavily on their behavior. At that point of remark, Catherine's face stiffened, and James opened his mouth as if to speak, but quickly closed it again. Sean, visibly uneasy, tried to intervene and restore some semblance of control. Come on, everyone. Let's not do this. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves, right? This is ruining the meal. Enjoying ourselves? Sean, do you really think that's what this is? My calm but cutting tone froze him into his tracks. I've endured everything for you and your family. I've carried the burden of housework bills and every responsibility. What have you done for me? Sean's eyes started around, as if searching for an answer. I've been trying too. You don't understand. It's not that simple to stand up to my parents. That's no excuse, and I'm done listening to excuses. At my words, Sean slumped his shoulders and fell silent. At that moment, a staff member approached James. Excuse me, sir. Regarding the payment, your credit card was declined. Do you have another card you'd like to use? James's face turned bright red, and the room felt even quieter. What? That's impossible. Try this one. He handed over another card, but the staff shook their head again. I'm sorry, but this card was also declined. Catherine began rummaging through her bag, visibly panicked. Wait, I'll handle it. That won't be necessary. Vicky's portion has already been taken care of, as she is our special guest. Melissa's statement left both James and Catherine visibly deflated. I stood tall, facing James, Catherine, and Sean. I've had enough. I'm done with your control and lies. It ends today. I've already prepared the divorce papers. I no longer wish to be a part of your lives any longer. Sean's eyes widened, and Catherine opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand to silence her. I won't let you take another second of my life. I'm reclaiming my own happiness. With those final words, I returned to the private room and left the restaurant with Melissa. A few months after this incident, I started a new chapter of my life living alone in a cozy apartment. In the sunlight streaming through my living room, I felt truly at peace for the first time in years. This is what true freedom feels like. At work, I regained the trust of my colleagues and found joy in collaborating with them once more. My bond with Melissa grew even stronger, and her support had made me resilient. Vicky, now is your time to live your life to the fullest. I had taken the first steps towards a brighter future and reclaimed myself. Months passed, and I had fully settled into my new life. My apartment was small, but the decor, chosen entirely by me, brought me comfort and joy. The kitchen held my favorite mugs, and the living room was adorned with a plush rug that I loved. Every morning, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the gentle sunlight streaming down the windows enveloped me. This is my life, one I chose for myself. That thought filled me with strength. I had also embarked on new challenges at work. As the leader of the marketing team, I found my work more fulfilling than ever. My colleagues respected me, and my proposals for new projects were being approved one after another. One day, my boss called me into his office. Vicky, your work has been outstanding. The success of this project is thanks to your leadership. His words warmed my heart, and for the first time, I felt truly proud of myself. Outside of work, I found time to enjoy new hobbies and reconnect with friends. Melissa and I met regularly at her restaurant where savoring her expertly crafted sushi became our tradition. How about trying something different next time? I've got some new creations for you. That sounds amazing. I can't wait. I also started attending painting classes, finding joy in expressing my emotions on canvas. Each brushstroke felt like a release, a way to free my spirit. One day at my painting class, I met someone new. His name was Jason, a warm smiling man learning landscape painting in the same class. Your painting is so expressive. I can really feel the emotions coming through. Thank you. I'm still a beginner, but I really enjoy it. Talking to Jason felt easy, and before I knew it, I was smiling more. Through my interactions with him, I began discovering a new sense of trust and comfort. One day, I found myself reflecting on the past. The days with John, the suffocating control of his parents, and the moment of liberation at the high-end restaurant. All of it had been painful, but now I could see how those experiences have made me stronger. Never again will I let anyone take my life away from me. With that, I promise in my heart, I continued moving forward into the future. My life was finally mine. Every day, I felt the joy of choosing freely, loving freely, and living freely. And that was the most precious gift of all.